Shalom family, Shalom, Soldier SICARRI out of SICARRI, Chicago. I'd like to start by giving all honor, praise, and glory to the Most High God Yahweh, Bahashem Mashiach Wamlak Yahweh Shai. Back here again with another little lesson. Today I'm going to be going into some resources and some history proving that the natives and indigenous of this land, of more specifically Central America and Mexico, are emphatically the 10 tribes of Israel, the northern kingdom, who came over here after escaping the Assyrian captivity, who when they got here were trying to keep the law, statutes, and commandments. I'm going to be going into this book called Antiquities of Mexico, which was compiled by Lord Kinsborough. And actually it tells you right here, Antiquities of Mexico, comprising facsimiles of ancient Mexican paintings and hieroglyphics, preserved in the royal libraries of Paris, Berlin, and Dresden, in the Imperial Library of Vienna, in the Vatican Library, in the Borgian Museum at Rome, in the Library of the Institute at Bologna, and in the Bodleian Library at Oxford. So real quickly, actually, I just want to... This is what was compiled by Edward King, Viscount Kinsborough. And right here, I'll let you know he was an Irish antiquarian who sought to prove that the indigenous peoples of the Americas were a lost tribe of Israel. His principal contribution was in making available facsimiles of ancient documents and some of the earliest explorers' reports on pre-Columbian ruins and Maya civilization. So this is, he liked getting these antiques, these codices, and these manuscripts, and he liked making them more readily available, making facsimiles or copies of them, and printing them out for the world to see, because he himself truly believed that the indigenous peoples of the Americas were the lost tribes of Israel. But going back into this book, I'm going to start. These are just a couple excerpts from the book, but there's plenty of information here. I'm going to start right here. It says, Salakia, let me get it. A very remarkable representation of the 10 plagues which God sent on Egypt in order to punish Pharaoh's hardness of heart occurs in the 11th and 12th pages of the Borgian manuscript. Moses is there painted holding up in his left hand his rod which became a serpent, and with a furious gesture calling down plagues on the Egyptians. These plagues were frogs, locusts, lice, flies, and etc., all which seem to be represented in the pages referred to. So he actually had these codices, I believe this one's called the Borgian manuscript, which showed these ancient depictions of the Exodus and the plagues that the Most High, that Moses proclaimed on Egypt and that were brought down by the Most High. But the last and most dreadful were the thick darkness which overspread Egypt for 3 days, and the death of the firstborn of all the Egyptians, the form of which is represented by the figure of an eclipse of the sun, and the latter by Mictlanteotl, or the god of the dead, descending in the form of a skeleton or a cadaverous body from the rod of Moses. The curious symbol of one serpent swallowing up another occurs likewise in the 19th page of the same manuscript. It is not extraordinary that the Mexicans, who were acquainted with one portion of the Exodus, that relating to the migration of the children of Israel from Egypt, shall also have not been ignorant of another. So this is just going to show you that our ancestors, the people, the indigenous people here in Central America, Mexico, and the Americas, that we had this knowledge. We held on to that knowledge. And actually this last part right here, mentioning that the Mexicans were acquainted with one portion of the Exodus, that relating to the migration of the children of Israel from Egypt, can actually also be found. I got this book here. Let's see. It's called Conquest of Mexico by William H. Prescott. And it'll let you know the same thing. Right here, the ingenuity of the chronicler was tasked to find out analogies between the Aztec and scripture histories, both old and new. The migration from Aztlan to Anahuac was typical of the Jewish exodus. So right here, that's what I was talking about in the book from Lord Kinsborough. It's showing you the parallels between the migration that happened in the Exodus and the migration that the Indigenous had from Aztlan to Anahuac, which, you know, Aztlan is the creation myth for the Aztecs, and it's paralleling that with the Exodus of the Bible. It goes on to say, the places where the Mexicans halted on the march were identified with those in the journey of the Israelites, and the name of Mexico itself was found to be nearly identical with the Hebrew name for the Messiah. We know that word for Messiah would be Mashiach, and we know that the natives refer to themselves as Mexica, where the name for the land Mexico comes from. So again, just showing you with history and with various resources what we conclude and what we go out and preach every week, that the natives of this land, you know, the Aztecs, the Mayans, the Incas, are indeed Israelites. But I'm going to keep going on in this book. It says, in nothing did the civil policy of the Mexicans more closely resemble that of the Jews than in their dedicating their children at the temple, and afterwards sending them there to be instructed by the master, or as we might say, the superior rabbi, in the doctrines of their religion and their moral and ceremonial laws. So this is showing you that the Aztecs, the ancient Mexicans, actually had the same culture that we could see in the Bible, that we had back in Jerusalem with our temples and with learning at the temples and being instructed of moral and ceremonial laws, and of learning about, you know, doctrine and their religion, so-called doctrine and religion. And, you know, we could see that in the scriptures with Christ being a child in the temple and talking with the Pharisees and the doctors, or even with Samuel. He himself was dedicated to the Most High, but he grew up in the temple ministering unto the Lord, you know, with the priest Eli and his sons. But we go further down. Salaki is this text in red. It says, Torquemada says that the ceremony of dedicating their children to the military profession was likewise a religious one, and that their names were registered at the temple by the priest, that when they attained a fit age, they might be compelled to go on military service. So, of course, we know where we see that in the scriptures. You go to Numbers 1 and 18, and it says, and they assembled all the congregation together on the first day of the second month, and they declared their pedigrees after their families by the house of their fathers, according to the number of their names, from 20 years old and upward by their polls. And then we even go down to 45. So were all those that were numbered of the children of Israel by the house of their fathers from 20 years old upward, all that were able to go forth to war in Israel. So again, seeing more parallels with the culture of the ancient Mexicans, the Aztecs, the indigenous people over here, and with the Israelites in the Bible. But it even goes on to say, right here, amongst the Jews, all wars, not excepting their civil wars, bore a religious character. For even in civil war, right must exist on one side, and in the 20th chapter of Deuteronomy, directions are given to the priests to accompany and exhort the soldiers to battle. The interpreter of the collection of Mendoza says that the priests likewise followed the Mexican armies, not only for the purpose of joining the combatants, but also to perform certain religious ceremonies in which some analogy is discovered between the customs of the two nations. So again, if we go back into the scriptures, Salakia. Salakia, family. Deuteronomy 20:2. And it shall be when ye are come nigh unto the battle, that the priest shall approach and speak unto the people, and shall say unto them, Hear, O Israel, ye approach this day unto battle against your enemies. Let not your hearts faint, fear not, and do not tremble, neither be ye terrified because of them. So again, we see another custom of the ancient Mexicans having their priests go out to war with them, just like the Israelites did in the Bible. And we see this in history with these people over here, and then we also see this in the scriptures in the Bible, showing you, exactly how we've come to a conclusion and the foreknowledge to know the people, the indigenous people over here of America are indeed Israelites. Now I'm gonna go down here just to further drive the point in. Right here. The interpreter of the paintings contained in the larger Vatican manuscript says that light was obliged to be always kept burning in the Mexican temples, and in instancing this and other traits of resemblance between the Mexicans and the Jews, he shortly afterwards adds, From all these circumstances, the fact is plain and probable that this nation descends from the Jews, since all the ceremonies of this chapter are as it were according to the text of Leviticus. So again, we see that the way the ancient Mexicans, the way they kept their ceremonies and the way they had ceremonial laws about their temple and how they worship is directly correlating with the Bible, not just with the Bible, with Leviticus. And real quick, another example, because right here it said light was obliged to be always kept burning in the Mexican temples. Salakia. Right here. Such as that the people should not touch the holy things, and again as in Exodus, that the light should be always in the temple, and incense and trumpets and the sacred vestments. I mean, real quickly, we could go to Exodus 30:8 for that. And when Aaron lighteth the lamps at even, he shall burn incense upon it, a perpetual incense before the Lord throughout your generations. Ye shall offer no strange incense thereon, nor burnt sacrifice, nor meat offering, neither shall you pour drink offering thereon. So again, just as it is according in Leviticus, we see these acts and these laws being carried out over here. I'm just going to go a little bit more into it. Amongst the Mexicans, likewise, the high priesthood, or the office of Topilzin, that is to say, of the great high priest who presided over public sacrifices, was hereditary in a certain family, as we learn from the 18th chapter of Numbers, that the Jewish high priesthood was hereditary in that of Aaron. And then goes on to quote Numbers, which I'll get right now. It says, And the Lord said unto Aaron, Thou and thy sons and thy father's house with thee shall bear the iniquity of the sanctuary, and thou and thy sons with thee shall bear the iniquity of your priesthood. And hence it followed that the seed of Aaron, by prescription, sacrificed and made atonement for the sins of the people and of the Levites. It says the priests of Huitzli-Puchli, like the Levites, succeeded also to their office by belonging to a certain tribe. As Herrera remarks in the following passage of the 15th chapter of the second book of his third decade, the priests of Huitzli-Puchli were entitled to succeed to their office by being born of families resident in certain suburbs of the city specially marked out for the purpose. So even just like in the Bible, how we had suburbs for certain Levitical priests throughout the 12 tribes, northern and southern kingdom. That's exactly how the ancient Mexicans operated over here in this land with their priesthood. And even down to it being, patrilineal, being according to your tribe and to your family and who you descend from. I'm going to get that in numbers real quick. And the Lord said unto Aaron, thou and thy sons and thy father's house with thee shall bear the iniquity of the sanctuary, and thou and thy sons with thee shall bear the iniquity of your priesthood. And thy brethren also of the tribe of Levi, the tribe of thy father, bring thou with thee, that they may be joined unto thee and minister unto thee. But thou and thy sons with thee shall minister before the tabernacle of witness. And they shall keep thy charge and the charge of all the tabernacle, only they shall not come nigh the vessels of the sanctuary and the altar, that neither they nor ye also die. So not only did they have certain tribes and certain families set apart, but even within that family, they had a specific high priest that would tend to the sacrifices and to, those higher ceremonies that took place in the temples here. And it even goes on to explain that the dignity of the officiating as sacrificer was supreme and held in great estimation, and hereditary in the manner of a feudal title. And he who opened the breast of the victim was reverenced as the high priest, and his title was Papa and Topilsin. His dress was of scarlet vest resembling a robe with open sleeves, to which were fastened fringes as a border. So again, another law that we see the ancient Mexicans, the Aztecs, keeping over here in the land, just like the scriptures told us they would in 2nd Esdras. So that was just a couple of things I wanted to bring out today. I'll probably go back into this with some more resources, just trying to further drive the point in. And if you enjoyed this, I'd actually also recommend you going on YouTube and looking up. It's called a series called Viva Yasharala that Chief Priest Alazar did, a guerrilla Hebrew. Another couple videos where he actually goes more in depth, doing the same thing, going into codices and ancient manuscripts of the indigenous peoples of the Americas and proving the same thing, that they are in fact the 10 tribes of Israel, the Northern Kingdom. I hope this was edifying for you guys, and I'd like to say Shalom.